Let's start by saying this park as a whole is wonderful. There are so many lands and exhibits, and each location has some great landscaping. And certain parts of the park have so much potential. Unfortunately, this place, like so many other businesses, got hit hard by recent events, and they have not quite bounced back as well as the Florida theme parks. In this video, we'll discuss what we can improve as well as my top 3 tips for Zoo Miami. First, let's talk about the space. This place is massive. I mean, absolutely massive. And while certain lands are dense with exhibits, like Amazon and Florida Everglades, some are quite the opposite. Like in Africa and Asia, the exhibits are spread far apart. And there are long stretches of walking throughout the park without theming. So when you're walking through here on a hot summer day, or in my case, a hot fall day, it is Florida after all, it wasn't always joyful. Now, they do have these bicycles to help you get around, but they cost $39 for 3 hours. I was really shocked to see this price because in my mind, they seem to be more of a necessity in the park than not. I understand they need to make some money back for being closed for so long, but if it were up to me, I would lower the price to about $25 to all but guarantee that sale for every party in the park. If it was $25, my friend Mike and I would have easily paid the upcharge, but we just couldn't justify the full amount of $20 per person. Something I loved about their space is they have some of the best animal viewing sections I've seen at a zoo. For example, take a look at this giraffe section. There's hardly any visual obstructions which make you feel like you are super close. Same thing for the elephants across the way. And I was really glad to see their giraffe feeding center is open. For $5 you can get 4 pieces of lettuce to feed the giraffes, and this was easily the highlight of the day.
Right out of your hand with this tongue. They have a prehensile tongue like a monkey's tail, so they can actually just grab it. He likes to get really close. He's like, I'm not gonna stick my tongue out for another.
Next, let's discuss the shows. But first, if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for new park tips and reviews every single week. When I was there on October 8th, it was only the 3rd time they had the show back up and running. And it wasn't really a show, it's more like a temporary presentation. And unfortunately, they didn't even advertise it as there were no signs and no showtime guides. I only knew about it because I just happened to ask the help desk. I'm not sure why they didn't advertise it because this was the only presentation available in the entire park, which we'll get to later. The content of the show itself was fine. They gave some fun facts about parrots and vultures and this wildcat here. But it was very empty. Again, because no one knew about it. Now, I spoke with an employee and he said they used to have more shows and more presentations throughout the day, but COVID ruined it all. Which I understand, and it's terrible, but if SeaWorld can resume their shows, why can't Zoo Miami? It just feels like the guest is paying the same amount as pre-COVID, but for a lesser experience. This brings up my main concern with the park. Nearly everything is closed, including the monorails, the paddle boats, the play areas, and Lost Man's River ride. The monorails would have been really nice to use to get from one side of the park to the other, even though they are a $5 upcharge. Instead of having the added expense of plastic dividers, they could have limited it to 1 party per cabin, and that would have been better than not running them at all. Now, the play areas I completely understand why they were closed, and frankly, I was glad to see them closed off for safety reasons. But regarding Lost Man's River ride, if every theme park in Florida can find a way to reopen their rides, then we have to ask, why couldn't Zoo Miami do the same? But first, let's pause here and discuss the 3 tips because I really want to help you out with your next visit. Tip number 1 is even though it looks like their water fountains are closed off, the refillable option on the left-hand side is still open, so use it to refill your water bottle. Here I'm using my elbow because COVID. Number 2 is water misters. There is a great spot by the gorilla in Africa with a shaded bench right next to the water misters, and it is perfect. And lastly, ask the employees if there are any shows that day because from the sounds of it, they are still opening things back up and adjusting the schedules. Okay, let's wrap this up and talk about the staff. This guy in the Asia aviary was spectacular. He was able to divulge several bird facts
South Asia and Northern Australia.
Huh.
as well as show us his bucket of live worms and crickets, which he touches with his bare hands. Guest interaction isn't even his main job, but he was still happy to do it. On the other hand, I had 2 other staff interactions in the day that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Once I was on the bench with Mike, with absolutely no guests in sight, and a staff member comes by on a cart and kind of yells at me to put on my mask. This frustrated me for a few reasons. We were outside with no guests in sight, and I'm seated with a water bottle in hand, and at any other park, this would have been allowed. But this woman's tone and the audacity just really struck a chord with me. There was another incident towards the end of the day. It was just past 5 p.m. and another woman came by on a cart and said, well, just listen to it yourself.
Hello. Okay.
The exit is back that way.
Oh, it's that way? All right.
Yeah, that way to the right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Look, I don't need Disney level service, but it just kind of struck me the wrong way. Am I overreacting here? Definitely let me know in the comments. By the way, in other parks, guests are certainly allowed to stay past park closing. It's just that the attractions close at that time. So how would I fix some of these? Well, like I said before, I would operate the monorails, even if it means one party at a time, lower the price of the bicycles, find a way to open the boat ride, install more misters by more benches, and maybe have a chat with some of the employees? Overall, yes, of course I recommend this too, but I wanted to make this video to help you set your expectations for a post-COVID opening, and I certainly hope you found these tips useful. As always, it takes a fair amount of time to make these videos, so if you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing. Thank you so much! Until next time, have fun, be well, and thanks for watching Quick Trip Travel Tip. Oh, and here's some nice B-roll for you.